I choose to oppose the resolution. This House believes emotions are an emergent property. My stance is that emotions are not solely an emergent property, although emergent processes can certainly influence them. Emotions are better understood as a complex interplay of biological predispositions, cognitive appraisals, and social-cultural contexts, not just arising from lower-level interactions. Here's my argument. Opening statement. The proposition argues for a reductionist view of emotions, suggesting they simply pop up from the interactions of simpler components, like neurons or basic physiological processes. While interactions within the brain and body are undeniably crucial, to say emotions are merely emergent ignores the foundational biological architecture for emotions, the crucial role of individual interpretation, the cognition, and learned societal influences. My argument will demonstrate that emotions are a product of designed systems, cognitive interpretation, and learned behaviors, rather than solely arising from low-level emergence. Arguments against emotions being solely emergent. Evolutionary basis of emotions. Emotions like fear, anger, joy, and sadness are not random occurrences. They are deeply rooted in our evolutionary history and serve crucial survival functions. Fear helps us avoid danger, anger motivates us to overcome obstacles, joy reinforces beneficial behaviors, sadness signals loss and elicits support. These are not simply emergent, they are adaptations, honed over millennia through natural selection. This implies a pre-existing biological structure, a dedicated system, not just a happenstance consequence of complexity. If emotions were purely emergent, we'd expect a vastly wider, more random, and less consistently functional range of emotional responses across individuals and species. Instead, we see core emotions that are remarkably consistent. The role of cognitive appraisal. A purely emergent view struggles to explain the profound influence of interpretation on emotions. The same physiological arousal, increased heart rate, sweating, can be interpreted as excitement before a performance, fear in the face of a threat, or anger at an injustice. This interpretation, mediated by cognitive processes, beliefs, memories, expectations, shapes the emotional experience. Emergent properties, by definition, are unexpected and arise from the interaction of the components, not from a higher-level cognitive relabeling of those interactions. While the intensity of an emotion might be influenced by emergent processes in neural networks, the type and experience of the emotion is profoundly shaped by cognitive appraisal. Neurobiological specialization. Neuroscience reveals specific brain regions and neurochemical systems dedicated to emotional processing. The amygdala, for instance, plays a critical role in processing fear and threat. The limbic system, as a whole, is heavily implicated in emotional regulation. While these systems undoubtedly exhibit complex interactions, where emergence could play a role, their existence points to a specialized, evolved design for emotions, not a spontaneous arising. To suggest the amygdala's function is purely emergent is akin to saying the heart's pumping action is purely emergent from the interaction of its cells true to a degree, but ignoring its evolved purpose and structure. Learned and cultural influences. While core emotions have a biological basis, their expression and even their experience are significantly shaped by learning and culture. What triggers anger in one culture might be considered acceptable in another. How sadness is expressed, open weeping versus stoicism, varies dramatically across societies. This learned component, where social norms and individual experiences mold emotional responses, is difficult to reconcile with a purely emergent view. Emergent properties are typically intrinsic to the system, not heavily modified by external cultural forces. The modulation of emotions by culture points to a pre-existing emotional capacity that is then shaped, not created, by interactions. The problem of subjectivity. A core aspect of emotion is subjective experience, the feeling of fear, joy, or sadness. Pure emergence struggles to account for qualia, the subjective, first-person quality of experience. While neural interactions correlate with subjective experience, it's a significant leap to say they are the subjective experience, in a purely emergent way. This remains a major philosophical challenge for purely reductionist accounts of consciousness and emotion. Conclusion: while emergent processes undoubtedly play a role in the complex dynamics of emotional processing, to claim emotions are solely an emergent property is to oversimplify a multifaceted phenomenon. Emotions are better understood as a product of evolved biological systems, shaped by cognitive appraisal, modulated by learning, and experienced subjectively. They are designed for survival and social interaction, influenced by interpretation, and refined by culture, a far richer and more nuanced picture than simple emergence allows. Therefore, I oppose the resolution